Okay. All right. So we are talking week 4 in review. So here are the meals at a glance. We've got a lot of good stuff. I don't know what your favorite was this week, but mine was the chicken Florentine with carrot mash. Again, all anti-inflammatory, gluten-free recipes. And was it easier than you expected last week? What was your biggest challenge? And we're just going on the action steps: identify, nourish, and grow. And this class today will unpack the real components of stress, zero in on transforming stress, and practical tips for lasting success. So, stress, the connection to hair loss. And that's the sympathetic state because you have excess cortisol, adrenal activity can lead to suppressed immune system, excess inflammation, which equals hair loss. So we want you to be in the parasympathetic state where you have adequate DHEA, repair, longevity, and immune resilience. And it can take a lot of things to overcome and balance out stress. So we're going to talk about it today. Stress is our body's response to any stimuli that forces a change in cellular behavior. And technically speaking, in this context, stress is inevitable. We all have stress, and there's positive and negative stress. And stress is our body's response to any stimuli that forces a change in cellular behavior. Whether we're breathing, digesting food, even receiving a promotion or getting married, what have you, that all produces stress. And stress is our body's response, again, to any stimuli that forces a change in cellular behavior. And not all stress is bad. However, it's not created equally. Now, physical stress is something like severe trauma from childbirth, car accident, surgery, injury, chronic pain, death of someone in the family, psychological, long-standing, maybe anxiety, depression, and so forth. And then emotional stress, loss of a loved one, which can also, like I said at the beginning, result in physical stress, into relationship and so forth. And toxins can even cause stress. Certain foods, skincare products, household products, environment, mold, heavy metals, and more. And the 4 stressors for Americans are money, work, family responsibilities, and of course, health concerns are a big stress. And there is a huge stress connection to hair loss, to hair thinning. And we look at this graph I set up. We've got stress, the HPA axis, the central nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So unfortunately, if you're in the fight or flight constantly, the sympathetic, you're going to release too much cortisol and not enough DHEA, and that puts you in a compromised position, whereas a parasympathetic state is going to result in repair and hair growth and the DHEA and so forth, the other hormones and chemicals that can help with hair growth. So stress is a good thing until it's not. This often is when stress becomes chronic and is left unresolved, leading to an overload of inflammation and overburdened stress pathways that domino to other systems and areas in the body, including our hair follicles. And this stress is linked to a type of diffuse hair loss called telogen effluvium. So you're probably wondering, where the heck do you start? Let's reframe our perspective. The fetal heart rate is widely used as an important marker for all, babies, their well-being. But why do we ignore it as adults? And the bottom line is there's a lot going on between the stress in our brain and our heart. And this is a real technical graph. I'm going to break it down. I'm keeping the recording in my program that talks about heart math. But for this presentation today, since I have Dr. Traci, I'm not going to go through the heart math. But this is looking at it biodirectionally, the heart-brain connection, and just giving you an overview there. I mean, it directly affects physical and mental performance. Our heart signals affect the brain centers involved in decision making, reaction times, social awareness, and the ability to self-regulate. We have incoherence and coherence. And here's a good graph. Over to the left, depleting emotions, and on the right, renewal. And if you break it down further, the sympathetic, you're going to have a high heart rate, whereas the parasympathetic, you're going to have a lower heart rate and relaxation. And if you start to look at the cortisol can get elevated, and it's kind of a domino effect, like I mentioned earlier. Depleting emotions are anger, rage, anxiety, panic, frustration, even apathy, impatience, resentment, depression. Whereas renewal are courage, excitement, joy, passion, appreciation, contentment, compassion, dignity. And if you wear a Oura ring, I do, it's really important to track your HRV because there are medical risks with it being low. The most predictive of future adverse outcomes associated with mortality, heart attacks, development of metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, correlated with low levels of testosterone, and the hormones get out of balance, associated with higher levels of inflammation, adrenal insufficiency. I mean, it just list goes on and on. But hair loss is included in here. Again, I'm not going to go through this. Anxiety, which again, Traci's going to talk about, she specializes in. And it's really just important to have a balance. And self-awareness is the first thing in order to have that balance. Nurturing your heart. And what is nurturing? Are you putting a Band-Aid on it? Just love that picture. Stress management. Well, I like to call it intelligent energy management. Renewing our emotions can help with increased longevity, increased resilience, improve problem solving, creativity, job performance, and so on. But depleting emotions are going to reduce your muscle mass, your brain cells, you're going to have impaired memory, accelerated aging, diminished performance, brain fog. So let's build our resilience. And it still can go back to the heart rhythms, which directly affect physical and mental performance with your breath. So what is coherence? Heart, mind, emotions in sync, prime enabler of behavioral change, and helps us build energy capacity and reserves. Coherence is in the middle here. It's a middle circle here. You can see it creates order, structure, harmony, and alignment. When you're in a coherent state, it reflects increased synchronization with higher level brain systems, your central nervous system, your autonomic nervous system, a shift in the autonomic balance towards increased parasympathetic activity with our vagal activity. Parasympathetic, remember, that's where we want to be. And this can lead to efficient functional model. This is associated with improved cognitive function, emotional health, and of course, hair growth. So putting the puzzle pieces together for self-regulation and again, hair health. And taking the proper steps. That's why my program, we first remove the stressors not only in our body, but in our environment. And those stressors can be emotional, physical, and psychological stress. It's not just mold, or it's not um, parasite in your body. It's your environment and what's going on internally, as far as, are you experiencing anxiety, or are you constantly in the fight or flight? So if you rush through the process, it's like moving in a house when you just have the framework after it's been devastated, like in the storm. You've got to do the right steps. And transforming your stress is just so important, and a powerful tool for self-regulation, shifting to coherence. It helps to maintain composure and helps neutralize emotional reactions. So heart focused breathing, focus your attention to your heart and your breath. Imagine breathing slower than usual. And even inhaling for 5 seconds, throughout the day, practicing and establishing a baseline first. Often repeated thoughts, emotions, attitudes, and behaviors create internal baselines, automatic response to patterns that are familiar to you. And whether it represents healthy or unhealthy behaviors and lifestyle practices, we do repeatedly become hardwired into our neurological architecture as familiar. And, I was recently at a Joe Dispenza meditation retreat, and he goes into this a lot about how people stay stuck in that fight or flight, in this sympathetic nervous system, because they're familiar with it. It's comfortable to them because they've been there so long. And you have to step outside that, and it can be scary. You need that, um, just embrace that fear to move on, to change, because these familiar neural patterns can work against us. And emotions and attitudes that create coherence are courage, honor, dignity for yourself, confidence, appreciation, gratitude. Do the 5-minute gratitude journal every day. Kindness, love, caring, compassion, tolerance, patience, enthusiasm, joy. Really restructuring your baseline. A couple of minutes each day. Start with your eyes closed and then move into practices with your eyes open. And practice when you can. Again, just 5 minutes can help you observe changes in your HRV pattern. So creating a daily routine. In my class handouts, I have tools to de-stress. And then eating nourishing meals. The food we eat is the fuel for all our pathways, including stress and the inflammatory ones as well. And practice those focused breathing techniques. Adding breath work that promotes healthy levels of cortisol and DHEA allows the body to also prioritize repair and regrowth of healthy hair. And there's various ways you can do it. Do what works for you, whether it's meditation, yoga, time in nature. I mean, there's a lot of ways that can help you get into that rest and relax and digest. But also look at other external things in your environment. Using natural skincare and hair care products is important. Avoid chemicals, dyes, sulfates, parabens, and animal testing. Just a quick check on your labels to make sure you know everything that you're putting on your body. And create a strategy. Eating quality foods. Practice this focused breathing, mindfulness, self-awareness. Use natural beauty and household products. And then there is homework in my academy. Tools to de-stress. Um, there's a depletion renewal plan, the stress workbook, There's a heart focused breathing technique, and then the 5 tools to de-stress it all in my class content. So the next step is healthy hair. So now I'm going to introduce Dr. Traci. She is a PhD. She specializes in anxiety, and she's going to take us through some breathing techniques, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Okay, Traci.
Sure, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Traci Potterf. I call myself a functional anxiety detective because I help people find and fix the hidden causes of what I call therapy-resistant anxiety. So that's the kind of anxiety that you cannot fix by just going to therapy. There's usually because something's happening in your lifestyle that's driving it, or that is also some kind of hidden health issue. It could be a gut issue. It could be a lot of the stuff Julie's talking about. It could be environmental toxins. It could be autoimmunity. It could be, different kinds of infections. So all those things affect the brain and nervous system. So what I really love about Julie's program is she's so comprehensive. And I love her definition of stress because a lot of people, we think of it just in the pejorative, like it's a bad thing. And there are healthy stressors, like sunshine and exercise and, eating certain compounds in plants that actually make us more resilient, like learning, leaning into our edge, moving through challenges, right? But then there's the kind that tears us down. So I think of a negative stress as something that tears us down faster than it rebuilds us. So a little about how I got into this. My background was I actually started out as a medical anthropologist. So that's basically the study of different human cultures, but in the context of health and healing and how people in different cultures, how they eat, how they live, what makes them sick, what remedies they use, what they do when they get sick, their aging process and their death, right? So it was really fascinating. One of the things I was noticing, I was really enthralled with indigenous cultures because I had this feeling in my soul that they had some connection to something that we've disconnected from. And what I was finding is that there are all these anthropologists writing about indigenous communities who were starting to adopt an industrialized lifestyle and subsequently develop chronic illnesses and mental health conditions that we consider normal in our culture, but that were not considered normal in their culture before. And so that's when I realized that we're not so mentally and physically ill because of bad genes, genetic chemical imbalances making us mentally ill, or just getting old, that's normal. What I learned is that we're not living the way we evolved to live, that we are nature. Nature isn't where we go hiking. It's not where we go camping. It's what we are. And nature is genius. And we are nature. And so we can tap into the intelligence of nature within us. And when we work with and not against the intelligence of nature, we can heal physical, mental, they're not separate, right? Our minds and bodies aren't even separate. We don't have a good word in English for that reality, right? So what I see Julie doing here in her program is she's looking at all the pieces of the puzzle. She's not just saying, oh, put some crappy beauty product on your hair or go do some really expensive scalp treatment or whatever. I mean, I don't know what she talks about in terms of treatments she recommends or doesn't recommend specifically, but she's not going to let you get away with like wasting money and time and getting your hopes up and having them dashed on things that don't work with your whole system, because her program works with the intelligence of nature, with your inner genius. So she's trying to get you to get the crap out, get the good stuff in, and give your body the things it needs to heal and grow hair, right? So, and then she just gave that beautiful presentation that was really thorough and on the nervous system and stress and things we can do to get rid of stress. But one thing I want to ask, so what is something that works for anxiety, depression? It's kind of a psychedelic and it lowers blood pressure. It's free and it has no side effects. So what is that? It's your
Yeah, you deeper. Yeah.
So one of the cool things about being in a human body, one of the cool things about your inner genius is that you have an accelerator and a brake on your breath and therefore on your nervous system. And so one of the things I've shared with Julie, it's on my website. It takes 15 minutes, so we don't have enough time to do it here. You're welcome to go to my website, innergeniushealth.com. So the genius inside. So innergeniushealth.com, or you can just look up my name. I'm highly stalkable because no one in the Googleverse has my name but me. And you can find my website and you can find free access to this meditation. And this one, I call it a magic brain trick meditation because it was developed. I didn't develop it. It was developed for people with chronic pain, but it works for the nervous system because emotional imbalance is a form of pain. And I accidentally discovered it helps people sleep who are having trouble sleeping. And you know you need sleep and rest if you're going to regrow your hair, right? And so this is an amazing tool that I think is so powerful. I've been teaching meditation and breath work in addition to doing functional health for a long time. So I hope you go check it out.
But we
And
do like a 5-10 minute
oh,
version
no,
of it.
well, I don't know. We could.
We could,
I
because
was going
we
to teach a
still have
couple of other
time.
things too. Okay. Well, I was going to start with some really basic, and then how about I
Okay.
teach them like super basic things, and then if we have a little extra time, then we can do a little mini sample of it. I'll show you what the technique is, and then you can just go get the recording and learn how to do the whole process. Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. So you may know this, you may have learned some of this or experienced some of this, like say in a yoga class or a group meditation, but I also don't want to assume people know things they don't. So it can get a little complex to try to understand it all, but it's not complex to experience it. So breathing through your nose is going to keep you a little bit more in the rest and digest, keep you more in the parasympathetic nervous system state. Also, and it's funny, all the scientists that have studied all this stuff, that they're breaking it down using science, but these are things people have known in different cultures for thousands of years. They're kind of like a duh thing. But now we want to know why, explain it. So we learn things about like, nitric oxide, which is a molecule that actually helps balance your serotonin, your dopamine, beta endorphin. It's a vasodilator. It helps lower blood pressure. It can create somewhat of a psychedelic type experience, right? And we can access it breathing. So the nose breathing is going to be the more soothing, slowing you down kind of breath. When we exhale longer than the inhale, like twice as long, then it has a very calming effect on their nervous system. So let's just play with that really quick, super basic. So I'm going to have you inhale for 4 breaths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to exhale for 8. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's do 2 more on your own. You count to get used to doing it for yourself. Helps to close your eyes. One more time.
And again, that's all through the nose, keeping your mouth closed.
Mouth closed through the nose. Exactly. So if you
And so, Tracy, that's why those mouth strips they say wear when you sleep, so that you won't breathe out of your mouth, get better sleep, put yourself in the parasympathetic.
Yeah, so mouth breathing definitely can trigger being more of in a sympathetic nervous system spot. Now, sympathetic isn't all bad, kind of like stress isn't all bad. Like you're in sympathetic when you're exercising, when you're having sex, when you're dancing, when you're laughing, where you're in a stimulated sense. But when it's in a negative stress context, that's when it can really tear us down, right? So yeah, and mouth breathing, we can actually, you'll see in a minute, we can use mouth breathing intentionally. Here's an interesting thing. When we mouth breathe from negative stress, it actually is hard on our body in a negative way. There's studies showing that when you intentionally mouth breathe, like holotropic breathing and certain kinds of mouth breathing, it can actually reverse trauma because you're doing it intentionally and in a controlled manner. Whereas when trauma happens, you're helpless and you don't have control over the situation. That's part of the definition of trauma, right? So breathing through your nose, inhaling and then exhaling twice as long. I had you close your eyes. You can do that with your eyes open during the day. If someone is talking to you, and like I had a meeting today, it ended very nicely, but it had a rough moment in it. I was resolving something from the past with someone I have a business relationship with. And there was a moment that was so tense that I grounded through my feet. I held onto my desk and I did the breathe. I doubled the exhale and I sat there and I listened. I was present, tried to, really wanted to empathize and inhale for 4, exhale for 8. You can do that with no one will even know. There's other things I teach like Ujjayi breath. You might have learned. We're not going to do that today, but it's kind of like considered like ocean breathing or Darth Vader breath. When you have a slight contraction in the back of your throat, it slows the movement of air and it slows it down and it makes a sound that sounds a lot like we guess the mother breathing might sound to a baby, to a fetus, or how it might sound when you're underwater snorkeling and you're hearing the ocean, right? It's very calming on a very primal level. So you'll notice a lot of these forms of breathing are very primal, and we're tapping into that primal nature intelligence to calm ourselves in a modern world that's gotten pretty wild, right? So, okay, another thing we can do that a lot of you have probably heard of because of its use by the Navy SEALs, which is box breathing. So box breathing is when you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and you can do 8, you can do 16. Just keep in mind that last side of the box where you push the air out, you don't have air in you, that's going to be the hardest one to hold. So we're going to try just 2 rounds of 4. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes again. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to count the first round, and I want you to count your second round so you learn to do it for yourself. Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes. We're going to inhale. 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, and pause, 2, 3, 4. Now you count 1. Okay, and that's when we're in 2 rounds, you're not going to feel as much. If you do that for a full like 5 minutes, you're going to notice a huge difference, a state shift. And you're going to start entering more into a peak. They're called peak states when you use breath work to get into these euphoric peak states. So that's still nose breathing. You can also do alternate nostril breathing. You can look that up on YouTube. That's in a lot of yoga classes. Now I want to show you I'm going to start moving in the fiery direction. So there's one called breath of fire, also done in yoga. It's a form of pranayama. And this is going to incorporate a breath hold. So when we hold our breath, that also can create a simultaneously euphoric, energizing, and at the same time calming response. Now, I love breath of fire. If you're pissed off, if you're angry and activated, it's a way to like pump the energy through. But it's also great if you're just tired and you need energy, or you're about to meditate and your mind's being like, I don't want to meditate, I want to go do other things. And it just kind of, it's so like, it really so entertaining to your mind that it like keeps you engaged. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to breathe through the nose. And the noise blocking on Zoom has gotten so good that it's hard for people to hear breathing now. But imagine like when a dog is sniffing around going, it's a little slower than that. So it's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So it's, and naturally your tummy should move. I actually noticed when I started doing this kind of breathing, my abdominals got more toned. So a little vanity prompt there, a little motivation there. Okay, so we're going to do 36 pumps through our nose, and then we're going to blow the air out and go, and you're going to blow the air out like you have a gnat in your nose, and you're like, get out of my nose, gnat. And then you're going to hold till you feel air hunger, which means I want to inhale. I need air now. And you're starting to get a little uncomfortable. And then you're going to inhale, fill all the way up with air, as full as you can fill of air. And you're going to hold it. And you're just going to pause until you get air hunger. And your body's like, hey, I want to exhale really, really bad now. And you're like, okay, you can exhale. And then you exhale. And then you just kind of breathe and relax. And usually you do 3 rounds of 36. We're just going to do 1 round today. And this is something you can, watch the recording and practice on your own. There's also Breath of Fire is something easy to find on YouTube. I even have some videos out too. Okay, so here we go. On your mark, get set. It's fun to close your nose unless you close your nose. Close your eyes. Don't close your nose. Close your eyes unless you need to watch me, then that's fine too. Okay, so here we go. And it might be easier if there wasn't a screen share or something because they might be able to see better.
Why is, oh yeah, why did
It just occurred
I
to me.
not do that?
It's
I am
okay.
so sorry.
Okay. I just thought of it. Don't worry.
I just thought of it too. I didn't even think of that.
I was like, they're not going to be able to see what I'm doing very well. Okay,
Yeah.
so here we go. So we're going to do it now. Okay, so we're going to do breath of fire through the nose. So it's blow out all the air out like you're vacuum packing, and hold. Everyone can hold a different amount of time. So when you do it on your own, you'll do it with your own hold time. Then when you start to feel like you want to swallow or feel some kind of distress, I don't want you to be too distressed, just be a little challenged. Then whenever you're ready, I can hold it a little longer, but just in case you're hungry for air, we're going to go ahead and all inhale together. So inhale. And now you're going to hold this inhale as long as you can. And again, I want to be sensitive that, if at some point you need to let go, you can let go. You're always going to be able to hold the inhale longer than the exhale. And again, I can probably hold it quite a while longer, but I just kind of am trying to teach you the technique here and honor the time. Okay, and then you can just go ahead and release. Now I just want you to keep your eyes closed, breathe slowly through your nose. And just notice what sensations have shifted. Is there a little bit of a tingle, a sensation in your chest? Do you feel simultaneously a little calmer but more alert? Or maybe you feel something different. There's no doing it wrong or doing it right. There's just being curious about the experience. Nice, slow breathing through your nose. I call this basking in the glory. So usually I take a quick pause between rounds, but when I'm done with 3 rounds, I like to sit there and just meditate and I call it basking in the glory, just feeling the after effect of my breath work practice. And these practices are cumulative in their benefit. You can open your eyes when you're ready. These practices are cumulative in their benefit. So when you do them daily, even 5 minutes a day makes a big difference in your biology. It'll change your cells. I talk about healing from cell to soul or from soul to cell, right? Okay, so now we're going to do one called hum saw breathing. So make sure you're just seated and grounded. And we're just doing 1 round of this. So it's going to be similar. This is now an intentional mouth breath. This one's probably one of the most powerful ones. It's kind of like holotropic breathing. We're just not going to do it forever until we get T-Rex hands. We're not going to do it for a full hour. Normally I practice this 3 rounds of 30. It has a little bit of a mantra built in, hum saw. And think of it as like, I am that, like I am all that is, right? And so I learned this from my friend Sage Hope. He's one of the most beautiful souls I know. And he used to actually travel for what it's worth with Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton, when he was coming out of academia, they were friends and they would hang out and Bruce would come with him to do his workshops. So anyway, okay, so here we go. Hum saw breathing goes like this. So you go, think of, so it's like you're ooh, like that. So like hum, take the air in, fill up your chest. And then the saw is like, you just let it go. Don't overthink it. It's so easy that sometimes our minds want to make things harder than they actually are. So it's just, so this is mouth breathing. You might notice after just a few breaths, you're like, woo, you're starting to get a little like that. So that's entering into a hypoxic state. So it's interesting, if we enter into a lower oxygen state, we start to deprive ourselves of oxygen, that your body, after you're done, will just rush oxygen to your brain and you'll get high. And you'll also get a huge flush of nitric oxide, which is like that, what is it? It's like 4 medications in one, but non-toxic and free. Okay. So, and people do this for a whole hour to try to have like a psychedelic experience. I find that tiring, but I've done it and I've enjoyed it. Okay. All right. You can do open eyes if you need to watch the technique, or close your eyes for a more internal experience, which I recommend if you can. Okay. So we're going to do 30 counts. And then after 30, we're going to do it the reverse this time. We're going to inhale, hold until you have air hunger. And then you're going to exhale, hold till you have air hunger, and then release, and then bask in the glory. That's what I call just hanging out in the sensation and enjoying it. Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes unless you need to look. Here we go. On your mark, get set, hum saw. It's okay to cough or swallow. Now I'm coughing. Inhale, hold, and ride the wave. Let yourself feel the sensations. You might feel intense, you might feel like euphoria. No, you're totally safe. Whatever you feel, you might feel some tingles. I want to encourage you to learn to love this feeling. And then whenever you have air hunger, if you haven't already, blow all the air out and hold. So empty out, hold, and just be very still, noticing all the symphony of sensations in your body. Notice the miracle you are. Notice how precious you are. Notice all your cells talking to you through sensation. And when you're ready, just breathe and feel, bask in the glory. So some people, when they first feel such strong sensation, they might be like, I don't know if this is safe. So you just might have to tell yourself you're safe. Some people are like, ooh, this is fun. I like it. Some people are neutral. There's no right or wrong experience. Just be curious. How do you feel? What's happening in your body? Nice, slow breathing through your nose. And right now you can just play with that long exhale or play with box breathing. Play with your breath. It's fun. These are your self-healing superpowers. And once you have a toolbox with some things to play with, you can use this in your daily life, and it's completely life-changing. So a lot of times we think about a morning routine or an evening routine, but when we can just slow down or be aware of our breath, feel our bodies throughout the day, I call that weaving your hammock. So it's like you have these two posts of the morning routines, your evening wind down. But what do you do throughout the day? Can you move at half speed movement? Can you breathe slower? Can you make a longer exhale? I catch myself saying, I'm just going to run to the bathroom real quick. Why do we need to run to the bathroom real quick? Why don't we saunter to the bathroom nice and slow? When are we not feeling our bodies? So just coming back into your body, using your breath as a tool, as medicine, as fun, as stepping into your own power to have control of your biology in ways you didn't realize you had. This really helps with emotional regulation, with sleep. So whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and just know you have the power to heal yourself. That's not just some like cheesy thing inspirational people say. It's for real. Like there's so much science backing this, but humans have known this for millennia, for such a long time. And so if you're doubting if you can regrow your hair, if you can heal, maybe other people, maybe Julie could do it, but not me. Maybe people in her testimonials could do it, but not me. It's not true. You can heal yourself, but you have to really be aware of the thoughts that you're cultivating. Be with the negative emotion. Don't shove it down. Like go into that shadow space and be with what you're feeling. Hold your little self. Love yourself. Don't get rid of any parts of you. All the parts of you, even the ones that are self-sabotaging, are trying to heal you. They're trying to support you. They love you. They just might be doing things like maybe eating crap or staying up too late, or they just may be doing things to give you some kind of freedom or pleasure or, connection through Netflix comedy or whatever. But at 1 a.m., that they're intending really well, but they have these parts of us that go into these behaviors have the maturity of a small child. And they need to know that your adult self is standing there and that you've got this situation. This is why I love internal family systems as a form of therapy. I love somatic practices as a form of therapy. And I'm finding what's interesting is that when you do the things you need to do to heal your hair, you can also heal your life. You can heal every part of your body. You can heal your gut. You can heal your brain. You can heal your hormones. You can heal your life. Similarly, the things you need to do to heal anxiety, heal all these things too. So whatever your pain point was that brought you here to Julie's program, to her community, to make you want to heal your hair, like thank your hair loss because it got your attention that you need to love yourself more and that you get to love yourself more. And you have this loving guide who's so smart and so thorough and has your back. And it's an honor to be invited here, and I'm open to questions.
Great. I'm just going to add that that was excellent. So many great practical tips to teach, different breathing techniques. Thank you so much. That was so good. And then I also want to tie it up with, I love your approach and your background and indigenous tribes and so forth, and how it relates to hair losses. There's quite a few studies showing, um, you know, these people that lived in these these tribes per se. Well, they did live in these tribes, and then they moved to the modern society where before they had no problems with hair loss, and they moved to the modern society and start eating the modern food and have the modern stressors, and
Toxic.
they've lost their hair. And there's even studies on identical twins with the exact same genes. One lives a stressful lifestyle, the other one doesn't. And the one that's under the stressful lifestyle loses hair, and the other one grows it and never has a problem with hair loss. So there's a lot to it. And, I've have 75 causes of female hair loss now, and I have put them into 5 functional root cause categories, and stress is one of them. Stress, inflammation, that's chronic inflammation, hormonal, which, and they all connect, hormonal, digestive, which includes
Yeah.
what
It's like
how
a Venn diagram. They're overlapping. They're not separate.
right. And
Yeah.
then toxins, right. They all overlap and
Feed each
just
other, right? Because if
right.
I'm stressed out,
Exactly.
and if I have I call it destructive stress or toxic stress. Like if I'm in a state of destructive stress, then I'm probably going to also be in a brain state where I don't make good decisions because I'm going to be limbic system dominant. So I'm going to be, my amygdala is going to be like, me feel good now, me feel safe now, me
Mm.
eat whatever crap's in front of me because I don't care about my future self because all I want is to feel good now. And so we're in these like very, we're not connected to our neocortex or our higher brain that is capable of looking out for your future self. Even your hippocampus can do a better job of looking out for your future self, right? Because it has memory and understands future implication. So just being stressed out leads to life decisions, or unresolved trauma leads to life choices that actually destroy our hormones, our gut health, our health, or, lead to autoimmunity, all these things. So there's not one, like I love how you've conceptualized all this for people to understand the complexity of it, but it's also, there's a certain simplicity because what unifies everything you're doing is that when we return to that intelligence of nature, when we work with and not against the intelligence of nature, our biological design, and optimize for, then that's when, we can heal these things, whether it's hair loss or something else. Because I'm guessing no one comes in with just hair loss. For me, no one comes in with just anxiety. I've never had a person come in there anxious, but they have no other health problems. Not
Yeah.
once. It's never happened. And I'm guessing you've never gotten a client that comes in with hair loss that doesn't have other health issues.
Well, I've had some come in thinking they don't have any other problem. Once
That's
we
what they
start
think,
digging and doing labs, then we find lots of problems.
right? Because people are so disconnected from their bodies,
Yeah,
they don't notice. But
right.
one of the biggest stressors to your body is when you don't listen to it. When you're not tuned in, you're not listening, and having a daily practice where you close your eyes, you breathe, you do some breath work, and then you sit and breathe and feel. Or maybe you do some box breathing, or maybe you do ujjayi breath, or maybe you do whatever meditation. But have time to sit. And I love guided meditations are great, but make sure you have time to sit and just be with yourself and be curious about your inner narrative and what arises. And I guarantee you, when you sit down for the first time to meditate, even if you've done breath work first, which really helps quiet the mind, first, do not expect your mind to be silent and have no thoughts. People always talk about go into a space of no thoughts or no mind or whatever. And then people are like, oh, I can find thoughts. I must be doing it wrong. No, you will stop having thoughts when you're brain dead. Until then, you will have thoughts. They will just get quiet and unobtrusive with practice. But when you first sit to meditate, they will be like, and you'll be like, ah. Here's the thing, that's happening all day, every day. All day, every day. You're just tuning it out. You're used to it, right? Have you ever been in a kitchen and you have that vent on, like the vent hood on, and then you forget about it, and then someone turns it off, and your whole system goes, ah, like what a relief from that noise is turned off, or a buzz finally turns off. That's what's happening. And so as you keep doing breath work and you keep just sitting to meditate and be with yourself and just sit with what arises, be curious about what arises, whether it's fear, hope, anger, fantasy, whatever the thing is, just be with it, be curious, stay focused on breathing and feeling. Don't leave your body, stay with it. Over time, like so many symptoms, I want you guys to check out that. I'm sorry we didn't give a little sample of that other breathing one. It's called a pendulation titration, but the magic brain trick meditation. That meditation is evidence of how when we listen to our bodies, they calm down. When you go in and feel your body, like you can have pain. Julie, you tried it with me, right? And you had a pain
Oh,
and
so good. So good. Yeah.
that pain went away. Right. So it's pretty
Yeah.
much our
Yeah. No,
bodies are
this is so magical. I mean, it's so right on. And I mean, it was one of the triggers of my hair loss when I was going gangbusters, living this high lifestyle and just never stopping and never stopping to slow down to even think about my thoughts. And I didn't think I could meditate because, like Tracy explained, when you meditate, you can't really think of nothing. And so I'm really glad you explained that, Tracy, because a lot of people start meditating and think they can't do it, so they quit. So that's really
Right,
important for
right.
to understand.
Yeah, everybody can meditate. If you have a body, you can meditate. If you can breathe, you can meditate. If you have a brain and a body and you can breathe, you can meditate. And that's it. And,
Yeah.
I get kind of like, I love, for example, I've had like full on mystical psychedelic experiences in meditation, but that's like with a practice over time. But I'm not going to go around bragging or competing. And I see people who are like, I'm so spiritual. I call it competitive spirituality or performative spirituality. Tune those people out. That doesn't like, that's just bleh. Like, no, this is your own unique experience, and whatever you experience is fine. There's like, again, this is not about getting it right or getting it wrong, about judging, about any of that stuff. It's about being curious, about tuning in and getting to know yourself and becoming your own best friend and knowing yourself so deeply and intimately that you can tap into that innate intelligence, to your intuition, to your connection to everything, whether you call it God, nature, the universe, I don't care what you call it. But this tunes you into that oneness consciousness, gets you into peak states, reduces negative stress, actually creates a positive stress, and it builds resilience, builds mitochondrial function, helps you have more energy, helps you sleep better. Meditate breath work first thing in the morning will help you sleep better at night. So it's just, I can't emphasize enough the power of breath work, the power of meditation, the power of unconditionally being with yourself instead of running away from yourself. And we have a culture that teaches us if it's uncomfortable, run away, numb it, avoid it, shut it down. You watch TV and people have a bad day, go through a breakup, lose their job. I need a drink. And I'm not trying to be judgy about alcohol. I'm just saying, okay, alcohol poisons your brain and nervous system, poisons your cytotoxic, neurotoxic, hepatotoxic, it poisons your liver, your brain, all your cells. Okay, like that's, and my point isn't never have alcohol. My point is, if you're reaching for alcohol because you're uncomfortable, why don't you try breath work and just being with yourself, and or getting a hug or being with a friend first. And I think if you are going to drink alcohol, do higher quality stuff. And if you're going to do that, then never do it when you need, like you're trying to fill a void or numb something. Only do it if you're like at a vineyard in Italy and you want to taste the wine and you're having a great time, That's not, I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah,
like,
no, you're right on. And now with the cell phones and all the, laptops and people just don't stop nowadays, and that's why our society is getting sicker and sicker.
yeah. And that yeah, we are. And we're running away from ourselves and we're disconnecting from what we really are, which is pretty freaking magical. Like if you look at our microbiome, you look at epigenetics, you look at like the beauty of like mycelium in the forest, we're becoming enamored with all this science we're learning about the magic of nature, this planet, the universe. And when we learn about that and it lights us up in our souls, like that's such a beautiful experience. And but we have a society, a culture, TV, whatever, that's teaching us to be shallow, to be self-destructive, to never feel like we're good enough, to never feel like we're good looking enough, to never feel like anything's enough. And one of the things I love about breathwork and meditation is I will feel like a certain type of way about a situation in life, and all I do is change my internal state. And I have this heart opening, like I'm able to tap into more love, more compassion, more trust, more ease. And suddenly I look at the exact same situation through completely different eyes, and it doesn't bother me anymore. I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I'm not afraid anymore. I used to be riddled with anxiety. One thing I did not share is I'm the daughter of a psychiatrist, grew up helping out in his office, was told mental illness was a genetic chemical imbalance, felt sorry for those people, age 19, start having panic attacks, and like and thought, oh my God, I'm genetically defective, and I was like, no, I refuse to take that as my reality. And that started a journey where I eventually overcame anxiety. It took me a long time to figure it out. Now, like I can help people who've had it their whole lives can get over it in just a few months. But, you know, yeah, just like that. Yeah, anyway,
But yeah, just jump in there. It's not
yeah,
like a lack of medication or
right.
same
Yeah.
with hair loss. It's not a lack of Rogaine or lectin or what. It's getting your body into balance and
Yeah,
managing your mental state
yeah,
is cellular. It does hit the cellular level. There's so
yeah.
much hard science behind it.
Yep. So anyway, I just want to say, like, yeah, so final plug for breathwork, meditation, being with yourself, doing your emotional work, moving toward, not away, things that don't feel comfortable. These are some just basic practices, learning good communication skills so you have more meaningful, fulfilling relationships. These are some of the best things you can invest in, because then if you change your energy, everything changes. If you like everything. And so if you are waiting for all the external stuff to change so you can feel better, you're powerless. But if you decide to change how you care for yourself, your brain states, your breath, you make these changes that Julie's teaching you, and that you're welcome to get that meditation from my website, then now you have so much more control and power over the kind of life you experience as a human. So anyway, amen, hallelujah. Thanks, Julie, for having me on.
That was so great. I'm going to stop the recording for questions. Hold on a second. So